Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patrice Ruffin-Dowdell. I'm Assistant City Manager with the City of Brookhaven, Georgia, and I'm currently the Vice Chair for the City Planning and Management Division. I want to welcome you all personally to our webinar today. Before we begin our program, I want to share with you a little bit of information about the City Planning and Management Division of APA. Our mission, which is here, is to support public sector planners and managers in their roles to build inclusive and sustainable cities and communities. With the additional detail there, our division in its mission supports professionals in a variety of ways. Besides this quarterly event, we also provide financial support for AICP testing expenses, as well as travel expenses for members to attend the National Planning Conference. We also have a newly created mentorship program that's wrapping up its first cohort this summer, and we'll be accepting new applications for both mentors and mentees later this fall. Lucas, if you can go to the next slide. You can keep up with all of the goings on of the division by subscribing to our newsletter or following us on Instagram or LinkedIn using the QR code here. While you're there, go ahead and consider volunteering for one of our committees. And you can find everything you need at our website at city.planning.org. Next slide. And one last thing, we wanted to make sure that you had the CM credit information. If you are logging this for your AICP credit, Lucas has provided the direct link in the chat box. So please make sure you get your credit for this 1 hour CM event. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Lucas Raley, who is the, the director for planning at Canyon, Texas. And I'll let him introduce himself and the speakers for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Patrice, for that intro and kind of getting us started. We appreciate you giving the background for who we are as a division, what our goals are. This is something that's near and dear to me. This kind of came out of a discussion I got to have with Margaret Wallace Brown, previous planning director in Houston, after the national conference in Minneapolis, and I had a very great conversation after she spoke in a session there about, hey, how can we create something for planning directors to be able to network with each other throughout the year, to be able to discuss a lot of the things that we didn't learn in planning school. And so that's kind of our focus, and our question about what topic we want to cover each time is, what's something else that we have to deal with on a daily basis that we did not receive any kind of formal training or education in, not typically something you focus on as much in some of your continuing education. And so that's where we've come from, and how we ended up at today's topic. We're really excited to talk about everybody's favorite subject, budgeting, and how to make things work and continue to encourage your staff when funds are tight. I joke that we've had the most number of registration and attendees for this, so everybody's budget must be going through a pretty tight process this year, and that was kind of our expectation. So before we get started, before I introduce our panelists today, what we're going to do is just start out with a very brief survey through Menti. So I'm going to share a screen over on this page, and I would like everybody to just scan this QR code really quick and just answer this question: what's your current role? This is going to help us get an idea of who's on the call today, and what you're most interested in. So if you could just use your phone, scan this QR code, and show us who you are, where you're at in your career. Awesome. This is great to see. So majority are in that director role, but we've got a lot in the aspiring role too. So that's great to see. Welcome. We appreciate you joining our call. So I'm going to jump into our next question here. What's the size of your current department right now? Okay, so most of our attendees are in small cities. Love to see you. Welcome. That's where I fall. We're a team of 8 here in Canyon, Texas. And as I suspected, we need help. Um, we we don't have as many colleagues to talk to in these small cities, so that's why we're on this call today. Thanks for joining us. We're glad you're here. How would you describe your department's current budget situation? So we've got severely constrained. There's some in there. A lot of us are in that tight but manageable. Don't worry, I added for now, just because we're all nervous. Adequate, 31. Not one city out there has a generous budget for planning and development. That's understandable, at least from our perspective, right? We may be a little biased. Okay. In a word or phrase, what's the biggest hurdle you face from budget constraints? Provided some examples there. If you've got any other comments that is a struggle, a hurdle, a challenge that you face from these budget constraints. Burnout, retention, prioritization, staffing, sure. Education, that's good to see. Hiring, not able to promote. Okay, I'm going to switch before we have to take our Dramamine on this one. And what's one thing you wish your elected officials or city leadership better understood about your department's limitations? What do these budget constraints lead, but they just don't really get? They don't understand what we actually do. That's a great one. Capacity, yep. Why can't you just do more with less money? Just make it work. Resource allocation, process, not politics, bottlenecks. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you all so much for giving us some of that context there. That's extremely helpful to our speakers as they kind of start to discuss some of these things. So what I'm going to do now is introduce our speakers. We're very blessed today, and we're appreciative of the two incredible directors that have joined us. I'll start close to home here in Amarillo, Texas. Emily Koller is the Director of Planning for the City of Amarillo. She oversees current and long-range planning and economic development. Recently, she guided Amarillo citizens through a transportation safety action plan and a comprehensive plan update, which was a winner of the 2024 Texas APA Comprehensive Planning Award. She has expanded her department to include neighborhood revitalization programs and grant writing, focusing on infrastructure and transportation. She previously worked as a planner for the Texas Historical Commission, the city of San Marcos, Texas, and the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma. She has a master's degree in community and regional planning from the University of Texas, Hook'em, and currently serves as the president of the statewide nonprofit Texas Downtown. Thank you for joining us, Emily. Our other panelist is Gincy. Gincy Thoppil is the Director of Planning and Development Services for the city of Arlington. She has close to 25 years of experience in comprehensive planning, land development, and building permitting. She successfully led public engagement efforts on a community-wide basis, on community-wide planning issues, adoption of urban design codes, and development-focused process improvements. She's been instrumental in raising the quality of public and private projects in Arlington and has embraced innovative initiatives and cutting-edge technology in order to provide exceptional customer experience. Ms. Thoppil is a certified public manager and has been recognized for her work by professional organizations such as the American Planning Association. She currently serves as the vice chair for the American Planning Association's Housing and Community Development Division, so check out that division too. She holds a master's degree in community planning from the University of Cincinnati and a bachelor's degree in architecture from the University of Mumbai in India. In 2023, she was honored by the Dallas Business Journal with a Leaders in Diversity Award for her efforts in fostering a culture of inclusion within the community, as well as to create a positive work environment within her 70-member department. Gincy, if you wouldn't mind kicking us off, thank you both so much for being on the call. I'd like you each to describe what leading with less looks like in your department. What kind of limitations have you faced, financial or otherwise?
Thank you, Lucas, and thank you for this division to invite me on this panel. This is a great time to be on this panel, I think. I've been with the city of Arlington for the past 20 years, and I've lived through two major budget contraction cycles. First was during the 2008 to 2010 recession timeframe, and now again in this present day. In 2008, I was serving as a principal planner on the strategic planning team. At that time, the city made the decision to use reserves, the reserve fund that we had, to fund a select number of positions for 1 year, because you cannot use it over and over, right? So those were called as challenge grant positions, which essentially meant that if revenues didn't improve within that year, those roles could be eliminated. So several senior planners on my team at that time were placed under that grant, and that uncertainty of not knowing whether they will be there the next year or not led many of our most capable staff to seek jobs elsewhere. And that experience has taught me early on how fragile retention can be when leadership can't offer long-term stability, right? So fast forward to today, my role has changed, and so has my perspective. For the past 8 years, I've served as the Director of Planning and Development Services, and I now oversee a diverse portfolio, including long-range planning, development planning, engineering, plan review, building inspections, gas well, health services, and the One Start Center, which serves as a central hub for all permitting in the city. So this time around, I have a much clearer view of the full fiscal landscape and the broader responsibility that's on our shoulders, right? We have a budget deficit of $5 million this fiscal year and an estimated $25 million next fiscal year. So that's big money we are talking about. Leading with less now means looking at the whole 70-person department as a unified system for me, identifying where we can temporarily shift resources, where we need to slow processes down to maintain quality, and how we can help one another when teams are understaffed. And understaffed meaning right now I am understaffed by 20% of my staff. So again, that's what we're talking about. The key difference now, when I approach these challenges more proactively, using like cross-departmental coordination and transparent communication to minimize the disruption that our staff is feeling. So I think that communication, that the information that I have and how I am able to communicate that with my staff, I think is helping, but that's the challenge that we have right now.
Awesome, thank you. Emily, if you don't mind, same question.
Yeah, thank you everyone for having me here. I have to apologize in advance. It sounds like I was out all night. I can assure you that it was the exact opposite. I'm recovering from a cold, so I'm not going to be winning any broadcast awards anytime soon, but I know I can make it through the next 45 minutes with you. So I think that leading with less means something a little bit different to me in Amarillo. If you're unfamiliar with where Lucas and I are located, we're in the Texas Panhandle, so we're in far northern Texas. We're actually closer to Denver, Albuquerque, and Oklahoma City than we are to the state capital of Austin. So we're just kind of up here doing our own thing in far west Texas. And so I think leading with less here has meant building and leading a professional planning department in a city that has less understanding of the value of planning and what planners do. So we're always having to make a case for why it's important for our community. So in 2016, it was literally a last man standing situation in Amarillo. There was one person left in the planning department here. I think there was a lot of turmoil, political turmoil at the higher levels, and it had trickled down. And so our current deputy city manager came to the city at that time in an economic development director role. And his vision was to join planning and economic development together as one department. We're a very property rights friendly place, but there's a lot of support here for economic development. So it was really smart on his part to combine those two departments to generate support from the council. And so now we have this very business friendly, kind of regulatory light, an incentive driven approach to growth and development. And what that means is there are some things we just don't really do, like historic preservation. We've just started doing transportation planning. Like, we're just a really lean department. And we just have to focus on kind of the essential services. So I came in 2019, and one of the things that we did was classify planners as a hard to hire position for the city of Amarillo. So that's a policy through HR that gives us some leeway on the job requirements and salaries. And so I think that that was a really important policy decision that we made here that's helped. So I've hired directly or assisted in the decision at this point for everyone in my department. I think my team seems really happy. We only have had one position turnover in the almost 3 years that I've been the director. And she got married and moved to Dallas, so I don't take that one personally. So right now I just have planning. So we have 11 FTEs, including myself. Our budget is about 1.3 million, and almost all of that is personnel, wages and benefits. So I'd say, just to kind of summarize and kind of lead us into the questions, I think generally leading with less for me has looked like shaping our department to reflect community values, even if it's not necessarily what I would have thought a professional planning department was supposed to have within it. So that's why we've put more emphasis on economic development, grants, transportation, infrastructure, because we know we have political support for that. I also have really made a commitment to a work-life balance with my employees. A lot of, when I took over, I could tell a lot of them were frazzled and near the end of their ropes. And I have a couple that are just absolute workhorses. And I was like, I am going to have to force them to not be in the office. And so we do a 980 schedule, and I really feel like they're thriving under that and really appreciate that. And then we kind of work outside of the budget process. So whenever there's an opportunity to reclass a position or provide a salary justification or do something that's not in the formal budget process, I feel like I've had more success with that. And then sort of once they're established in the program budget and the positions are filled, they're not usually questioned. So I think that is what I have to kick it off with.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. Yeah, so I've got some questions to start. I put this in the chat, but we'd love for anybody who's attending this webinar to use the Q&A. And as we go through, I'll kind of moderate, use some questions from the chat. Susan, thanks for that question. I'll just answer that live really quick. She said that they use a 980 schedule, so 9 days, 80 hours. They get every other Friday off up there. So I believe that's right, Emily. Correct me if I'm wrong. But my first question is more scenario based, and maybe this hasn't happened to you, but I'm sure you can imagine it if it hasn't. I've been in this scenario before. You know, you're going through the formal budget process. You have your first budget meeting, and you go in and finance says, hey, listen, budget's tight, no increases, no hiring, no promotions. This is what we're going to do. Take your budget from last year, cut this amount, or leave it the same. And that's what we have to do for next year. Then you're sitting at the city council meeting where they're reviewing the first budget and they ask for something that they want to see. It's PD and increases. The fire department needs a new truck. Something else that wasn't in the process. And however, all of a sudden city manager says, yep, we'll make sure we get that in the budget. We can find that $500,000. How do you explain that when your staff's sitting there or they watch the meeting or they ask, hey, how'd it go yesterday at the commission meeting, the council meeting? How do you explain that to your staff, keep them from getting discouraged in those instances? How do you keep from getting discouraged yourself when you thought there wasn't any money and all of a sudden it's found somewhere for someone else?
All right, I'll go first. Yes, this scenario is unfortunately all too common in city government. I've experienced it myself, and now that I sit at the executive management table, I better understand why some of these last-minute budget decisions happen. Often it's a response to political dynamics or public pressure tied to some current events in that city or that region. It can feel arbitrary sometimes from the outside, but let me tell you, there are complex considerations driving those decisions. And when I hear from my city manager on what those are, it makes sense why some things happen the way it happened. That said, I've learned that it's not at all helpful for me or my team to dwell on those things that's outside of our control, right? So when these situations arise, I try to be focused on being transparent to my staff, explain to staff that council has the authority to set funding priorities. And while it may seem inconsistent or even frustrating sometimes, our role is to continue serving the community with professionalism and integrity. So that's what we have to be focused on. I don't sugarcoat it. I know, and I acknowledge the disappointment by everybody, but I also make it clear that I'm advocating for them behind the scenes for our purposes. I remind them of the impact of their work, and that while it may not always get the recognition or the resources that we would like, we still play a critical role in shaping our city. Sometimes just knowing that leadership is honest and on their side, I think can go a long way in keeping the morale of our staff.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I would have the same response. I actually just had this conversation. Our city approved pretty generous pay raises for our police department, and can't really argue with that. But, you know, my staff were like, well, they made it look so easy. And I don't know if this is a good answer or not, but it's the best one that I've come up with. And it's true in Amarillo that the personnel expenses really are overseen by HR, and it's tied to this position structure throughout the whole city. And so why they think, oh, well, there's an extra $5,000 there, like you could just pay me that. That they have to understand that their roles are evaluated against that same class across the whole city. And it's not as easy as just, you know, dropping 10 grand into our budget for personnel, because it would trigger an analysis of that pay grade across the city. So they seem to understand that. And I also just let them know it's a process I don't have a lot of control over. And they know that I really dislike not being in control. So they understand that I must be sincere when I tell them.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really helpful. So there's a couple things here that I think play off of this. One of the things I think, Gincy, is that you talked about that you are advocating for your staff. You ensure them, regardless of the final outcome, you want to make sure they know that you are working for them, for the things that you believe in, and to show that value. what are some of the strategies or points that you've made when you are arguing, whether it's in the budget process or out of the budget process? What are some of the effective things you've been able to say to either city management or even council that was effective at either protecting your budget or increasing it? And what are some of the things that you tried that didn't move the needle?
Yeah, so what I've seen is when you just make a pitch that you need this, and kind of just keep repeating the need part of it, that doesn't get you anywhere. So what you have to do is try to bring how it ties to the council priorities, and then it has some more weight there for council or city manager's office to even take that in. For me also, it's important to retain your employees, right? So without getting the dollars coming to us, how can I not overwhelm them with the workload that's coming? Because now we're working with less. How to not overwhelm them is the priority for me. So what could we do? Let's see how to cut things that's not essential. So when I say not essential, meaning whatever is required by law, you have to do it. So you have a plat shot clock. Plats have to be done within that 30-day shot clock. There is nothing that we can really do to change that. We have to complete it within that 30 days. However, zoning cases that's coming in, do we have to take zoning cases, all of them that's just coming in, or can we restrict the number of applications that come in at a certain time and let the next set of applications come in 2 weeks later? What can we do to slow some of those things down that we have just set by policy? We set a policy that our goal times for review has to be, for zoning case, has to be 10 business days for the first review and 5 business days for resubmittals, or 5 business days for residential plan reviews and 3 business days for resubmittals. All these goal times that we set previously was when we were fully staffed, and I wanted to make sure we had the exceptional customer experience. We're giving the best to our customers, right? That will need to lower down. Those expectations have to come down when we are not fully staffed. So that's what I'm looking at, is how do we either reduce, defer, or cut some of the non-essential things. And some difference too. Some big projects that we would have thought of starting this year may have to be deferred until we have the staff to do that. But those were not requirements. We were doing it because one of the council priorities was this. And so we could put that back in the budget proposal at the right time. So that's how I look at it, is city administration and council really tries to take things that is more tied to their council priorities. And then there are certain things that have to be done, and how to make that happen. What do you need for that? That's what you look for.
I think I would reiterate the importance of the council priorities. I think generally I try to stay away from asking for new things during the budget process, but I've added positions to my department because I've taken underperforming FTEs from other departments. And so one of our council priorities is a business friendly community, and another one is infrastructure. And so there was a development liaison position that was in the city manager's office, and then another kind of assistant to the city manager position. And just mostly for appearances, they wanted to cut those to, make it look like we don't need all this, we can run this office leaner. But we asked for those, and you like, hey, like we can do more to meet your priorities with those positions. So it was just important that they weren't seen in the city manager's line item. And those positions have really helped us expand what we're able to do. The assistant one is our grants and special projects manager. And so we have like a full-fledged grants program, and we're looking at being able to move the other grants positions at the city under that person, hopefully in the next year or two. So that's maybe one effective example. And then the other thing I was going to say is we've also spread expenses across multiple sources, particularly for software. So because we have economic development and planning, we're able to, well, our proposal this year is going to be that 2 of our tax increment reinvestment zones cover some of the expenses for economic development software. So we'll basically be splitting it 3 ways between the planning's program budget and then the the rest of the country says TERS, but up here we say tiers, between those budgets. And so I'd say that's another way we've been able to make, it's like, well, it's not such a hit. We're able to share these expenses, and they seem to respond well to.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's awesome that we have you two as our speakers today, because I think you come from cities that actually aren't that different in size. I say that it's like 100,000, but you're both larger cities. Emily 200, Gincy 350,000. Extremely different departments, different priorities, different situations. Gincy, I appreciate the discussions and the process you're having of where can we flex, where can we bend but not break, in order to meet that budget that we're given. And maybe that council member who prioritize development timelines will understand that costs money after it slows down. And Emily, you're in a completely different situation of, starting from a very small department and strategically taking people from other places around the city in this pretty big structure. I mean, Amarillo has thousands of employees. And so I think some of that provides you a little cover. And your department was so small that getting up to 11 or 12, it's not a big department in the realm of the city of Amarillo. But I think that's really smart. And I think that in a lot of places, planning departments can do a lot more than we might be given credit for. And I think that we already do, whether we're given credit for it or not, or people understand it or not. We're one of the only departments that touches everything. We're hanging out with public works, we're hanging out with engineering, we're hanging out with library, depending on the project, and the level of community engagement. And so I think that's really smart, and a great advice, Emily, on how you can try and grab some of those positions. And hey, they're not effective where you're using them, but we know how to engage as planners in that specific goal or commission priority. We can do transportation. Yeah, we're not engineers, but those guys don't really know how to do it anyways. We can do economic development in the way that's actually going to be sustainable, right? Rather than just giving all of our EDC money to Chick-fil-A. And so, I think that's really special to kind of talk through, and those are some really good ideas. I'm gonna jump over to one of the questions and kind of themes from our chat here, and it's something that I brought in too. Staff appreciation, staff rewarding. What are some of the things that you've done with your staff to be able to show them they're appreciated, for them to actually have a meaningful experience in the workplace, that isn't still a percentage raise over what they are going to have to stick with? What are some of the things other than a pizza party that you can do to really recognize or encourage your staff in that more relational way rather than monetary?
So on a team basis, we have been doing this, and even with budget deficits and the crunches that we have, We've still continued with like team recognitions as a team. So whenever we have the National Public Health Week, it's in April, we would do a celebration for the health services team, have a cake and, kind of talk about how health services team contribute to the public health and safety of our city. We celebrate the Building Safety Month in May. We have the Community Planning Month in October, similarly with engineering and the admin staff, all of it. We do that team recognitions, but especially in these times, I feel there's a lot more that leaders need to pay attention is our recognition has to be very intentional, specific, and even to specific people as well. So I have started on that path with meaningful engagement with key staff, involving my high performers in decision making for the department. So when I know about these things, I'm not just keeping it in my head. There are a lot of things that I'm sitting down with this key staff to talk about it, brainstorm, think through it. What can we do? As I said, it's reshifting responsibilities within that 70-member team, which now is no more 70, right? It's reduced by 20%. So kind of thinking through that, creating these lateral opportunities for some of them to expand their skill set in other areas, cross-training them also, being honest about the financial picture that we have, and show them how they fit in the long-term succession planning. So people know that, yes, this is just, we are right now in the tunnel. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and things are going to get better. And this is where my vision is, what my big picture path is for them. And so knowing that, that's an important thing for staff to be able to, go through these hard times.
Yeah, I would emphasize the importance of succession planning and so that all employees see a clear path for advancement. That was something we weren't doing a great job of. And that way, one, they can stay at the city, but they know that they'll be able to promote through. That's been successful for us. I've also rewritten job descriptions to better fit people's strengths. So I changed a long range planner position into a community engagement manager. And she's absolutely I mean, she's not she doesn't have a planning background, but she's absolutely thriving in an engagement role. And then I wouldn't underestimate the value of a good party. We do we do a team building day, and every year it's gotten more elaborate. Last year I don't know how we'll top it next year, but last year we took a city bus, and everyone contributed locations of places that they'd worked on, projects that they worked on. And we did a bus tour. They all had to write trivia questions. And so we had like a contest on the bus. The Visit Amarillo donated prizes. We had lunch at the Big Texan, which is usually the only thing anyone knows about Amarillo. That's our famous steakhouse here. So we were kind of tourists for a day in our own town, but I mean, they loved it. They said it was the best team building experience they'd ever had. And for me, I thought it was really important that we get out of the office and go see these projects from a different perspective as far as like their impact on the city, and not just like all the issues that we had in reviewing them. So I'm committed to try to think of fun things like that to do for them, because I do think it really makes a difference.
I love that, Emily. That's a great, great idea. I do a similar kind of thing as an annual departmental meeting. I always have the annual department meeting in a place that all my staff worked on throughout
Yeah.
the year. So it's like a big opening happened, and that's the place that we would have the annual departmental meeting.
Yeah, fun.
It's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Emily. Don't underestimate the power of party. Just throw a good one. Don't throw a bad party. Put effort into it. And I think that's what I've noticed is when you put effort into it, rather than just, oh shoot, I forgot we have that lunch next week that we planned for staff. Let's throw this together. ChatGPT, give me some ideas, right? Actually think about it, prioritize it. I think that shows something meaningful. I think a small thing our staff did this year just to try and be a little more engaged. There's not one person in our office that watches NBA basketball. And so I had us all fill out, or NCAA basketball, excuse me. I had us all fill out NCAA March Madness brackets. And we all had to fill them out, and we all had to learn how to fill them out and what they meant. And it was really fun. And one of our administrative assistants won. We got our nice plaque. I made some coupons that she gets 2 free half days off, because that's what really matters, is not, a $10 coupon to the tea place around the corner, but hey, you can take time off, just leave one afternoon, right? But it was really fun, and everybody stood up in our staff meeting and was clapping for her, and now I think it made some people watch basketball that wouldn't have, which is always fun. But it also got people engaged, and they were like, hey, who won that? And we hung them all up on our cork board, and I went through every time games are played and marked up, and everybody kept track of it. So that was really fun, something new and different. And I think it just engages us. And sometimes what we need to do is just be distracted from the hard things that are happening around the office, and build the team that we do have around. Let's build that and make sure that we're all comfortable with each other. And I think that helps. So I'm going to look at some of our Q&A questions here. One question for you, Emily, if you wouldn't mind answering briefly, from Ray: how do you consider software to be approved for partial funding under the tiers, or tiers, as we like to say here?
Yeah. Our plan is to apply it to our professional services line item. It's possible that our city attorney may tell us not to, but he was in the meeting, so I think that's how we plan to proceed.
Awesome. Another question that it's super practical and logical. Hey, do y'all close the office for these events? Because we're told in our city, says Helen, you can't close the office. When we want to do things like this, we're found that other departments are able to close for training or whatever else, but we're told we have to be open. What do you do?
I do close the office. I think one important detail with my story is I have a very supportive deputy city manager. And so I run into no issues with anything related to team building, personnel. Like, he's very supportive. I know that's not the case everywhere, but I've been fortunate here.
So we do have that policy that you cannot completely close. What we have done in the past is try to get one of our employees who were in my department moved into another department in fire department. So she was willing to come and sit in my department at the front desk for those 3 hours that we were out. So we did not close the department. We had one person sitting in there. And then we always advertise 1 week in advance of that date. So at our One Start lobby, we would have a sign saying next week, this day, from 11 to 2 p.m., we are not going to be open. We would put that so that people already know about it. But even if anybody comes, there's this one person who kind of knows our system to kind of help them a little bit. But, it's not going to be a full help, but there was somebody there.
Yeah, thank you. One question I had, because this is what kind of led me to work on this series in general. This is my first time being in this director role. All these things are new to me. I'd never done the budget process. I had no clue some of the games, political or otherwise, that are played through that process. What advice would you give to somebody who's either a new director or new manager and they're trying to lead their team effectively, but they do have these constraints? What are some tips you would just offer to somebody who's new to this position or this scenario?
So I would say focus on the things that you can control. First of all, your own attitude, your communication with the city manager's office, budget office, all that, but at the same time, your communication with your staff and how you treat them. You being stressed out and, can't do this, I can't do this, is not helping anybody. So your attitude is the most important. And then engaging key performers in some discussions is important to kind of come up with what solutions you've come up. Learn your budget inside out. You need to know every line item of your budget very well so that when time comes, you're able to shift things around. Which are the line items that you don't really need, can be considered as non-essential. So those are the things that you need to do on your own. Learn those budget line items. Somebody who can help you is your budget office liaison. So whoever is the staff in the budget office that works with your department, they are the ones who can really help you learn each line item as well. And again, as I said, help the team see the big picture, explain the current situation, but also let them know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. For my own experience in the last 20 years, this is the second time I'm going through this. It's not like it happens every time, right? So there's this whole cycle that happened. So we had some really good times too, where we got 3% raises plus bonus, whatever. But that happens, but then there are these lean times as well. So just know that there's light at the tunnel and treat people accordingly. Yeah.
Emily, what would you have told me if I actually knew to ask questions when I first started?
Well, and I think this is universal. I don't think it's just unique to where we are, but I think what I learned quickly is that I needed to hire people with a passion and that I knew would fit in with the other. Like as I was building this team, I was looking for more of the right personality fit. I mean, we have a few positions that require obviously very skilled planners, but not all of them do. And so now, I mean, you can teach people a lot. And so I think that's why we've been successful is that everybody gets along really well. They have a lot of respect for each other. And so and I couldn't find, like I had to, we had trouble finding like skilled planners that wanted to come here. So I didn't really have a choice, but hiring passion first and then training the skill set has worked really well for me. And then I think just being creative with your job descriptions and funding sources and playing to the strengths of your community and adapting to, I mean, I do think it comes back to those council priorities a lot. You have to meet those expectations. And then I think you're given a lot of leeway. Like our department really has earned the respect of our council. So, a few years ago, they were looking for, it's got to be the staffs, all these issues we're having, all the builders and developers that are calling and complaining, like surely it's a staff issue. And I think we've proven over time it's not us. And so it's really great to like have earned that respect from your council too. And then you're just given a lot longer leash with what you want to do with your programs and your staffing.
That's great advice. Thank you both for that. I think looking back, one thing that I had no clue about just because I had been through that process too, coming from a small private firm in upstate New York to a city in Texas and going through that process. I didn't know that I should just go look at other departments' budgets for similar line items, right? Office things. Hey, what is your printing budget? We print more than you. Or, hey, you have a food budget? I didn't know we could have a food budget. What do you use that for? Oh, you have meetings where you actually feed your staff. Okay, we should do that. Your apparel budget, and it depends on what you're actually doing and what your department includes. Ours is a very, very miniature version of Gincy's department where we do building safety, we do code enforcement. And so, I want my inspectors to have uniforms. How come we're the only department in the field that doesn't have uniforms, and different things like that I think has really helped make the case in the budget conversations when we say, hey, here's what they've all done. We just want to do that. We're not trying to go above that or beyond that. We're just trying to meet the same standard and hold that. And again, achieve those priorities, like you said, that the commission or the council has set for your community. Okay, reading Annika's question here from the Q&A. Any comments for a planning department whose professional services / consulting budget was completely cut? You are all planners. You all went to planning school. Why can't you just write that new plan, whatever it may be? Why don't you just do the zoning update yourself? Any comments or suggestions or advice for someone who's in that situation?
So for the size of our city, so we have close to 400,000 population, 99 square miles. I'll tell you of the experience we've had without a consultant, and that will say it all. Our 2015 comprehensive plan, we started that project. When I joined in 2005, they had already started it. And so then I was put into that. But we did not have a consultant, so it was going to be done in-house. It took us 10 years to get the comp plan done. So don't do that, I would say. Because what happens is there are so many other projects that come along the way that council wants to be done, wants us to do, and that takes the priority, and this goes into the back burner and it never gets done. So until you have a consultant, it's very difficult to focus on that one project and get it done. When you have a consultant, there's a time associated with it, there's a money associated with it, and it gets done. So even though you are going to be spending a lot of time into that project as a project manager, and consultant services are there, but I think it helps you get it done faster. Also, consultant from outside, when they come and say the same thing you were going to say, makes a big difference. So council might take what you say with some kind of biases that they have. But if somebody else from outside says that, makes more sense. So I would say if you have a big project, definitely go for a professional service contract. If you don't have the money this year, just defer the project to the year that you're going to get it.
I think that's good advice. I've had to answer that question with our comp plan here. Our council changes every 2 years. We have 5 members and they're reelected every 2 years. And so there's always a lot of justification that's required. And I basically just say, like, we don't have the skill set here to do, like, this is a very technical process. And if you want a quality product, then we need to hire someone to deliver the best product possible for the city. And that seemed to resonate.
That's great. Thank you. This has been awesome. I think that we can all feel for Annika. Sorry. It looks like you're going to have more cuts this year is what you put in the Q&A. And your community doesn't trust consultants. That's a good context for us to have. Because I think that's something that, okay, so what are the priorities? Okay, your city manager tells you that your council is not going to trust a consultant. They want this project to happen. It sounds like it's time for that really pointed conversation of what do you expect? What can we really produce? What's a realistic timeline? What budget are you going to give us to hire administrative help or whatever else help to be able to actually accomplish this goal that you have? But we really appreciate everyone joining here. I don't want to go beyond our 1 p.m. So we're gonna end the Q&A there. Gincy and Emily, thank you both so much for being willing to come participate here. This has been our highest turnout yet. So this is our third Directors Dialogue series. We will be back in August for another one. We've got some exciting topics kind of floating out there. I think we have one direction we're planning on going, but I don't want to give it away yet. So until we confirm our speakers and everything, if you enjoyed this, please feel free to reach out to us. Let us know. You can find myself, our speakers, APA City Planning and Management. All of their information is on the APA City Planning and Management website. Find our speakers on LinkedIn. They're doing amazing things and they're going to continue to do so. You want to make sure and be connected with them. Make sure that you do register for CM credits. If you're AICP and you want to get that hour credit for today, please do so. Reach out to us with any emails, questions that you have, suggestions for next topics, and hopefully you'll all join us in August for our next conversation.
I would just wanted to say thank you, Lucas, and thank you, Emily. Y'all both are doing wonderful in your cities. I've learned a lot from y'all both too, just through this webinar. So thank you for that. And thank you for inviting me, City Planning and Management team. Always there if y'all need to contact me. I think the email addresses would probably be shared with the team, I guess. Thank you.
Yeah, I second that. Great job, Lucas. We appreciate the invitation.
Yes, and somebody asked in the Q&A for that information on the CM credits. I threw that back in the chat again. Thank you all so much, and we hope you have a great rest of your morning or afternoon, wherever you are in the country.